So my son's had a chronic staph infection in his nose for a year and a half, and they keep throwing antibiotics at it, which does do well, but towards the end of the antibiotics, it comes right back. And
Yeah.
so when you said a nebulizer and doing the vitamin A and D and that, do you think that is there something else that is better with like a staph bacteria,
No,
bacterial infection?
it would be useful to add those to the nebulizer for sure. One thing to consider though, if you if they're doing antibiotics and the antibiotics work, but it comes back once the antibiotics stop, does it happen to be the same antibiotic every time, or are they changing it up?
They changed it up, but this last antibiotic does seem to work, but he's also on an immune suppressant drug right now.
Yeah,
So he's fighting with that too.
yeah.
So
So that's another layer. Like if you're on an immune suppressing drug, you're not going to fight an infection as well as you could, and you're opened up for infection. So that's another layer. But just if we keep the focus for right now on the antibiotic, where I was going was if you take an antibiotic and it works, the antibiotic's gone and it comes back. You take the antibiotic again and it works. Antibiotic runs out, it comes back. That suggests a biofilm based infection.
mm,
Biofilms are involved in up to 80% of infections based on the research, and I've made videos on this before, but biofilms are like little igloos that the immune system uses to hide from, or excuse me, not the immune system uses. Biofilms are igloos that the infections use, bacteria use, and yeast use them as well to hide from our immune system and from um, our medicines. So let's say right here, this is his sinus wall. Okay, so this is his actual sinus tissue. Okay, and on that tissue, the bacteria are going to build their igloo or build their biofilm. And the reason they build this is because down at the lowest level here in this area are called persister cells. And they're sitting here and they're literally eating on his tissue right here. So they create inflammation here, not enough to kill him, because if he dies, they die. So it's like you could think of it as a parasitic relationship. They're feeding on him, but they're keeping him alive, because if he dies, then their whole strategy falls apart. So these guys are protected by this igloo here. When antibiotics were invented or discovered, all we knew about were what are called planktonic bacteria or free swimmers. Antibiotics are great at killing free swimming bacteria or bacteria they can see. Okay. Bacteria that are hidden down under the igloo, the antibiotics will go and bounce off. Okay. And bacteria have also developed or evolved mechanisms where um, if we have another free swimmer over here, the antibiotic enters the bacteria, takes up the antibiotic, but they have these things on them. They've evolved these things called multi-drug resistant efflux pumps, MDRs, and they take in the antibiotic, and before it can kill them, their body recognizes it and shoots it out so that they can stay alive. So we need different strategies to get to these guys, because what the antibiotic does is it'll come and it'll knock a couple shingles off the roof, right? And so what that's equivalent to is you take your 10-day course of antibiotics, it knocks enough shingles off so that your son is asymptomatic now, and you're like, oh yeah, it worked, he's better, and then the course is over. Well, then these persister cells wake up and they're swimming in the guts of all their buddies, and that's very nutritious, and so they rebuild the igloo. And then 2 weeks later, he's symptomatic again. So what was happening was the antibiotic killed enough of the outer layer of the biofilm to make them asymptomatic, but the antibiotic doesn't get down to the persister cells because of the biofilm. So we need antibiotics plus biofilm disruptors and plus MDR inhibitors, for those multi-drug resistant efflux pump inhibitors, so that we're hitting them from all angles. We can kill the free swimmers. We can block, put a plug on that there so they can't eject the antibiotic when it goes inside them. And the biofilm disruptor comes and just chops this building up. So now we have access to these persister cells, can kill them for good. And hopefully, 2 weeks later, it doesn't show up again.
That's great. Thank you.
Mhm.